These are players you should be moving off of your Dynasty rosters, and I think when we present to you the trades that you should be making for these players, I think you're going to see why we would prefer to sell them at price. Again, you might like these players more than we do, so if you disagree with these players that we have labeled as sells, that's totally okay. You're free to do that. These are just guys that when we're looking at some of the deals we can get done for them, like we're going to show you, I think you're going to agree that these are some pretty good deals, some pretty good potential trades. So let's jump to our first guy we're going to talk about here, and that's Tyrone Tracy. And I just want to give you a little bit of context here, because this one, like, this is a perfect example of remove personal bias, remove personal feelings about a player when you're playing Dynasty. Tyrone Tracy is not only an Indianapolis kid. He went to Purdue, which I'm an IU fan, but whatever. My dad actually works with Tyrone Tracy's family, somebody I've followed since he was in high school. I have known about this guy and followed this guy. I mean, like legit, there's that much of a connection. And still, with Tyrone Tracy, while I acknowledge that, I thought he was a sleeper last year. You can go back to the rookie running backs rankings, and I actually ranked him pretty high. You remember me making a case to push him up our rankings when we were doing post-draft. I was advocating for him to go higher. I thought he had a good skill set. I thought he was going to translate to the NFL. And I thought him going to the New York Giants was going to be a situation where he could ultimately win the starting role from Devin Singletary and therefore take a big value jump in Dynasty. You could potentially get a big value win. And what happened? Exactly that happened. I think we maybe are overestimating how big of an accomplishment it is for Tyrone Tracy to have beat Devin Singletary out for that job, considering that A, Devin Singletary is not that good, B, Devin Singletary did spend a lot of the year injured or banged up. And with Tyrone Tracy, I don't want this to be a knock on Tyrone Tracy, but I do want to cover his stats a little bit here because I think it does matter. Because when you're looking at Tyrone Tracy, he was the running back 28 this year. He didn't play a ton in his first 4 games. Obviously, it took him a couple games to get that running back 1 slot in the Giants. And yes, it was one of the worst offenses in the NFL, and again, the offensive line, not ideal. I'm totally aware of that, and so situationally, Tyrone Tracy would have performed probably better with a better offense, with a better surrounding cast. But even then, when you're looking over those last couple games, it's not like you're looking at Tyrone Tracy and you're seeing a guy that I think is irreplaceable, right? And again, we have to talk about the rookie class that we have coming in for 2025 in Dynasty is going to displace not only a lot of these running backs like Tyrone Tracy, who you might have like a Tyler Algier situation where Algier had a good year, came in and got drafted over on a team where they really had better team need than running back. That's going to happen here for these running backs like Tyrone Tracy. It's also going to happen for some pretty good running backs this year, I think. There's just too many good running backs in this class, and they have to go somewhere. And so with Tracy, again, when you're looking at his last really 6 games here, 7 games, 9 points, 14 points, 19, 4, 16, 9, 8. I mean, and you're talking about, 9 points against Indianapolis on 20 carries. He's not been the most efficient guy. And so, but you look, that's just on the surface with his fantasy production. When you're looking down in his productivity and his efficiency, again, the snap share was probably in the 20s. Most of his opportunity metrics were in the 20s. He was 13th in routes run, but when you're looking at his efficiency, 36 in true yards per carry and 23rd in yards per touch, 24th in juke rate, 34 in explosive rating, 20th in breakaway runs, 26th in yards created, 21st in yards created per touch. There's not a single efficiency metric for Tyrone Tracy that jumped into the top 20 this year. And yes, again, I acknowledge the situation was very bad. But my point is, Tyrone Tracy, I don't think he put together a performance this year for the Giants to where they're like, they absolutely wouldn't draft somebody, even in the 4th round, that would play over him immediately next year. And so let's talk about some of the trades that you could make for Tyrone Tracy. And this is the main reason why I think he's a good pivot, is because right now, here are some of the guys we're looking at market value, so what the community and how your peers and how our peers are valuing these players. Christian McCaffrey straight up for Tyrone Tracy. These two are being valued adjacent in both startup drafts and in market value rankings. 100% willing to pivot from Tyrone Tracy to Christian McCaffrey just to take a shot at league-winning upside. I like that trade a lot. Second guy here, Keon Coleman. I think this is a good move for every Dynasty team. Keon Coleman, we've talked about as a buy multiple times already this offseason, and this very short offseason so far. I'm going to continue to harp that I think a value-insulated wide receiver playing with the MVP, or potentially the MVP, in the NFL, and one of the best passing offenses in the NFL, a guy that they believe in, a guy that just got significant draft capital, I feel more comfortable investing there, especially over the length of the offseason, than I do in Tyrone Tracy, who has very little team investment and is at the most value volatile position in Dynasty. The third one here, Jalen McMillan plus. And we haven't advocated to buy Jalen McMillan a whole lot. In fact, we've kind of been wait and see. Obviously, he had a very good into his season, and he's skyrocketed up boards. But where we're seeing him settle is still behind Tyrone Tracy. And with the sample size we saw put together from Jalen McMillan in the last part of the season, not to mention what we saw from him on tape coming out of college, the fact that he was a good prospect.
We liked him as a prospect outside of out of Washington.
Yes, and so we do. This is a guy that we have believed in. It's a guy I took as my late round flyer in the Flock League. I ultimately dropped him, which I shouldn't have, but you can get him plus right now. You can get him plus a lot. It's a down tier to Jalen McMillan. And I'm willing to bet Jalen McMillan's value goes up in the offseason. And Tyron Tracy, I'm not confident in making that bet. So those are 3 trades I think you can make for Tyron Tracy where you feel pretty comfortable at what you're getting. You're comfortable enough pivoting off of Tyron Tracy for those guys. So
yeah, I think the Giants have a lot of things to figure out this offseason, and it starts at the quarterback position. It starts at trying to build their offensive line, have some semblance of an offensive line, and then building defense. Running back is just the last thing that they're going to care about. And some might say, well, that actually benefits Tyron Tracy. You could say that if you wanted to, like for his potential production next year. But again, a team building other positions and trying to, build around their quarterback doesn't mean they're not willing to take a shot on a day 3 running back. Like Avery said, any day 3 running back that they bring in next season, I am automatically scared of for Tyron Tracy's sake.
Because the day 3 backs are good this year is the thing. They're very good. So
right, yeah. Next guy that we're going to have here, and this one is AJ Brown. Don't yell at me. Don't click off the video. This is not me saying that AJ Brown is too old, though. This is not me saying that AJ Brown isn't good at football or that he's going to regress or anything like that. This is not me saying that I hate AJ Brown. I love AJ Brown. We've liked AJ Brown for a very, very long time. He used to tear up the Colts in the AFC South twice a year, so we know him very, very well since he came out of college. AJ Brown, to me, is a classic example of a veteran peaking at his ultimate highest possible price from here on out. He will never be ranked any higher than this. Keep Trade Cut has him like mid-third at the moment, his current ADP. We've done multiple startup drafts, and we're seeing him go like 2-3 turn. You are most likely going to see AJ Brown go no earlier than the late second round in Dynasty startup drafts, which is pretty dang high. That's actually like just a little bit lower than where he was going last season. And again, it's been merited for multiple years because he's had contract insulation. He just got an extension for like a day and a half. He was the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL this past offseason. And this year when he's been healthy, he missed a couple of games, but he's been good old AJ Brown. He doesn't always require a ridiculous amount of target volume. And this year, he really needed to be productive with less target volume. And with Saquon Barkley in that offense, we have now seen that AJ Brown can be productive with Saquon in that offense. Now, it hasn't been as consistent, which is kind of a bummer. But again, he's still AJ Brown. He's still your true alpha wide receiver that has big play upside, touchdown upside. He brought in like 7 touchdowns on the year, the same as last season, and he only played 13 games. So nothing but positive things to say about AJ Brown, the player. This is a market play. We are trying to play the market with some of these sells, and AJ Brown is a perfect example of that for me personally. I think that this is a move that you can't go wrong making because of the guys that he's currently priced around. When you look at guys like, who we're going to mention here, when you look at guys like Devon Achane, you go a year from now, not even a year from now, 6 months from now, who do you think is going to be ranked higher? Devon Achane or AJ Brown? Some people might say AJ Brown. I think it's without question going to be a guy like Devon Achane, who is going into the 3rd year of his rookie deal, who is still incredibly young and is really a focal point of the Miami Dolphins offense. With Tyreek Hill potentially out the door, he could be even more productive than he was this season. You've got other guys in this range like Garrett Wilson, who's 24 and a half years old. You have Lab McConkey, who's on the rise. You have fallers who are like Breece Hall, who's been a cornerstone running back that has still been productive. Kyler Murray, T. Higgins, Kyron Williams, Rashee Rice, who fell only because of the season-ending injury that he had this season, and he's still only like 25 years old. There are guys all around AJ Brown right now at their current price who have more value upside over the next 6 to 12 months than AJ Brown does. Because at the moment, AJ Brown is about 27 and a half, which again, I have no problem with that age. I have no problem with AJ Brown being productive for the next couple of seasons. If I were to guess, what is AJ Brown going to be for 2025 and 2026? He's going to be a wide receiver 1, barring injury. That's what I would bet on. The Dynasty community doesn't care. They do not care if a 27, 28, 29-year-old is producing as a wide receiver 1. They will only rank him so high, and it really is never any higher than the 2-3 turn. Yeah. Even when Tyreek Hill came off an amazing season, you just can't, and it's understandable because their 3-year outlook down the road is in question. Where's AJ Brown going to be in 2027 and 2028? You don't know. Do we care about that? No, because we play Dynasty in 3-year windows. But I care about playing the market right now in the offseason. You guys are playing Dynasty Fantasy Football, which means you probably have a couple of rebuilds. You probably have multiple leagues. You don't really want to own A.J. Brown right now if you're looking for value upside. If you're looking to raise the overall value portfolio of your team, A.J. Brown is just not a guy when you're looking at the other guys around him that I would want to invest over them.
And it really is team dependent. It's based on what the rest of your portfolio looks like. It's dependent on what your team archetype is, what your 3-year outlook is for your dynasty team, and then obviously what the 3-year outlook is of the players that we're talking about here. So it is team dependent, and we try to help you with that with our team blueprints. You can get one of these at flockfantasy.com/domain. Use code domain, sign up for the annual MotherFlocker tier. You get a free team blueprint, but you also get our 2025 Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide. It looks fantastic. Shout out to our graphic designer, Becca. You get that rookie draft guide. You also get all of our Dynasty rankings, the trade calculator, get one-on-one advice from Nathan and I, get exclusive question and answers, all of that and more at flockfantasy.com. Like I said, you get that free blueprint, and where Nathan and I personally will sit down, review your dynasty team, and try to give you very specific advice for your team to make sure you're set up to win this offseason to try to win your championship in dynasty. But you can find the link to that in the pinned comment. Let's go down here and let's talk about the next guy here. I know I'm going to get pushback on this, but it's not because he's not a good player. It's Bucky Irving, and it's not because he's not a good player. You're talking about a guy who just in his first year in the NFL came out and was the running back 15 in the NFL. And you might say, okay, yeah, but he, didn't start at first. He wasn't playing as many snaps, 30% or less at the beginning of the season. And I don't want this to be me taking away anything that Bucky Irving did this season, because let's look at Bucky's stats. Again, the PPR running back 15, but 1,100 yards, 5.4 yards per carry, and 8 touchdowns in his first year. The one thing that he was really only missing was he didn't have any receiving touchdowns, but he still did have 47 receptions for 392 yards.
Wildly efficient.
Which is feasible. He's wildly efficient. Let's look at this. His efficiency, 6th in true yards per carry, 5th in yards per touch, 7th in juke rate, 5th in yards created, 2nd in yards created per touch. He's one of the most efficient running backs in the NFL, hands down. And really, the reason you saw him not be a high-end running back 1 was because his opportunity, 38th in snap share, 35th in opportunity share, 22nd in weighted opportunities. And so I think you can make a pretty good case for Bucky Irving to where, if he's this efficient and this good with the ball, but he's not getting as much opportunity, then if they get more opportunity, he's going to naturally be a running back 1 in Dynasty Fantasy Football. And the dude is, he's 22 and a half. Yeah, yep. That's a good argument. It really is a good argument. And I totally see the merit in wanting to hold Bucky Irving if you're a really strong believer in Bucky Irving. Unfortunately, Nathan and I are idiots. We missed on Bucky Irving coming out of the draft. We didn't think he was going to do anything, and we were wrong because we're stupid. But it still doesn't change the fact that with Bucky Irving, I don't want to take away from anything he did this last season because it was really good. He was a very solid running back, very good dynasty asset, and at price. Here's the thing, guys. Although I missed on Bucky Irving, this is funny, it always turns out this way. Although I missed on Bucky Irving, I had as many shares of Bucky Irving as I had almost any other rookie last year because I got to the 3rd and 4th round, and you just take shots on running backs. And so the process led me to a guy I didn't necessarily like the talent. That's why trust process, trust your own analytics, and trust your own theory over actually what you see in film and what your opinion is. Because again, had I been with my film grade, I would have never taken Bucky Irving. But regardless, the trades here, this is what I want to talk about. There are just a few guys at price. If you can't get these trades done, I would recommend holding Bucky Irving. And people make this mistake. We recommended Bijan as a sell early in the season if you could get a top 12 dynasty asset. Well, now all the trolls in the comments want to say, oh, you guys said to sell Bijan. That was such an awful take. But really what you need to take away here is this is a very specific, actionable trade idea here. This is not sell Bucky Irving high for anything you can get, because I think Bucky does have the potential to be a very valuable and productive asset. This is sell Bucky for these specific trades because we really like the guys that you can get. There are some other really good buy low candidates around him. I would rather just pivot in a year where we've got a really good running back class coming in. And I don't think they're going to draft a running back. But what I'm saying is if you can get Michael Penix plus, which right now you still can. You still can. In startup terms, we've done plenty of startups, done plenty of mocks, we've seen plenty of rankings, we've seen plenty of people and their preferences, plenty of trades. You can get Michael Penix and more on top for Bucky Irving. And in a Superflex league, I think that's personally a no-brainer. Michael Penix is going to have more insulated value. He's at a position where there is more demand. There's more scarcity there as well. And also, he's playing with some of the best weapons in the NFL. He's a quarterback. And so he's somebody that I think going throughout this offseason, he's going to have that starting spot locked in. You don't have to worry about Kirk Cousins. And I like Michael Penix, but the fact that you can get something on top of him, maybe even a small rookie pick or something like that, I'm a big fan of that trade. Rome Odunze plus. And with Rome, he is a young player with tons of upside that was in a very crappy situation last year. You've had lots of people mention in the comments, correctly so. There were a lot of times last year where Rome Odunze was wide open and didn't get the ball. There were a couple times where Rome Odunze was wide open, got the ball thrown to him, and the ball was just out of his reach. And I'm not making excuses for Rome Odunze not producing in his rookie year, because really, if I wanted to do that, what I would say to you is he was competing with Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. He was never going to produce in year one. We knew that. We said that up front. But going into year two, as soon as he doesn't have to contend with Keenan Allen for targets, I think it's pretty obvious Rome Odunze has a talent, and his chemistry with Caleb Williams will elevate him not only from a production standpoint, but from a dynasty value standpoint. If I can down tier from Bucky Irving to Rome Odunze plus, I want to do that. I want to do it. I think it's a smart dynasty move. It insulates your value. It's a guy who is one of the premier talents, and from a wide receiver perspective, premier young wide receiver talents. He is going to be productive. He is going to be in a better situation. It's only going to get better there in Chicago. It can't get worse. I want to do that. And then the third guy, another running back, because really, if we're talking about running backs, that came on the scene, produced a lot this year, and don't necessarily have the team investment to back them up. I don't think team investment matters for Bucky Irving. So if we're going to say that's true, if we are going to say that that's true, I don't think team investment matters for Chase Brown either. The difference between Chase Brown and Bucky Irving, there really are two differences. Number one, Chase Brown is on a better offense. Number two, Chase Brown, his price is cheaper in Dynasty. And that's important. Like, really, when I'm looking at this, what it comes down to is price. The third one you could add here, and it's kind of negligible, but in terms of points per game even, Chase Brown was more productive than Bucky Irving this season. So I'm down tiering to a running back, another young running back, although Chase Brown is almost 25, so you got a couple of years on him. Another young running back, just as productive, if not slightly more, in a better situation, but I get something on top of him. If I'm going to own one of these running backs, I would just rather have Chase Brown plus. Now, would I take him straight up? No, that would be stupid because Bucky Irving's worth more. He's more valuable. But Chase Brown plus, I think, is a pretty good move for Bucky Irving. So again, I don't want to take away from Bucky Irving and what he did this season. I don't want to say, and I will not say, and you will not say we said this, to sell Bucky Irving at any cost, that he's a sell, he's a hard sell, you just sell him for whatever. You got to hold Bucky Irving if you're not going to get a good return for him. But if you have a good return for him and what would be a good dynasty move in terms of value insulation, in terms of positional scarcity and things like that, I'll make that move just because I think there are some better options there. The next thing I want to talk about here is Zay Flowers, actually. And this one I feel like might ruffle a few feathers. The thing with Zay Flowers is, as much as I like him as a talent, as much as I liked the situation that he went into coming out of the draft, there's no other way to describe it besides there was always this really uneasy feeling that I had about starting Zay Flowers from in a fantasy league and then owning him in a dynasty league. And, to start the season, I was feeling better about that at least, right? Because he did have a pretty good stretch at 11-22, but then games of 5-2, then 19-22, and then 4. I mean, it's just, it's very like, if it's not 29 or 4 points, it's 11, 10 points, which he had in a stretch from weeks 12 to 15, and then to end the season, 5 points and 3 points. And you're talking about Zay Flowers, yes, by the way. Zay Flowers has been a little bit banged up this year. Zay Flowers is 5'9", 175 pounds. It should play into a little bit of what his long-term outlook is. Is he going to be able to stay on the field and stay healthy? Regardless, he's played every game this season, so I'm not going to use the health excuse to justify why he didn't produce. And when I say didn't produce, I'm looking at somebody who played with potentially the most valuable player, probably the best player in football this year in Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, when you're looking at some of his metrics, I mean, he, from a passing standpoint, because obviously he just won MVP.
He had one of his best years
he's
as a
already
passer.
thrown for 500 more yards. He threw for 17 more touchdowns this year. 17 more touchdowns. Lamar Jackson threw the ball for 41 touchdowns this year. 41. That's
I'm not going to lie. I didn't even know that. He threw 41 touchdowns.
He threw 41 touchdowns. Guess how many of those were Zay Flowers touchdowns?
Holy cow.
How many Flowers touchdowns do we have this year?
Got to be like 3.
4. Out of 41. The wide receiver one in
So basically,
in
this is
Baltimore.
like best case scenario passing Lamar Jackson.
That's what I'm saying.
And Zay didn't even.
How do we
Zay
justify?
should have been a wide receiver 1, and he was on pace to be a wide receiver 1. Then he kind of fell off.
He was, and so that was
So-
kind of like, okay, later in the season was a little bit more what I expected. But my point there, and you nailed it, was like, this was a very good situation for Flowers. I don't see how it gets much better than this. 20th in targets this year at 116, 7 per game. It's pretty good. So 18th in target share.
Holy cow.
17th in air yards. Yeah, Lamar's been good, dude. He's been good. But, when you're looking at his efficiency, he's also been fairly efficient. 14th in yards per route run and 13th in yards per team pass attempt. We look at those two metrics a lot. He's been efficient. Why is he not scoring fantasy points at a higher clip? He got 8 total red zone targets on the year. 8. That's 55th in the league. When you're looking at his total touchdowns, 49th in the league. His unrealized air yards weren't all that high, so he was very efficient with the opportunity he got. The problem is the opportunity he did get wasn't very conducive to fantasy scoring because he wasn't scoring touchdowns because when you're looking at, I'm just looking for some of his other metrics here. He was 8th in yak, so he's getting the yards. A lot of his, and this ultimately makes sense mathematically, a lot of his production was from yards. And when you play in PPR leagues and 6-point touchdown leagues, and a lot of your production is coming from yards, you're going to be like a faux productive guy because the main amount of points you see from wide receivers in those types of leagues are from receptions and from touchdowns. And really, when you're looking at Zay Flowers in those two metrics, again, this is one of the better situations I think he could have. 22nd in receptions this year and 49th in touchdowns. For a guy that, when you're looking at his Dynasty Fantasy Football price, he has dropped a little bit in value. This is not a sell high, I would say, but he's still the wide receiver 20 right now. He's not even outproducing his ranking as a 24-year-old playing with the best quarterback in the NFL. And again, I think he's good for that offense. I think he's a good NFL player. But for Dynasty, I can make these trades for him. I'm very comfortable with it. You want to say something?
Yeah, you want to know who the biggest guys that really took away from Zay Flowers in this offense too?
I mean, it's Bateman and Andrews.
Bateman really being one of the most unexpected guys that came on, took 9 of those touchdowns, really kind of established himself as that ultimate deep threat for Lamar Jackson.
Yep.
And then Mark Andrews, who started super slow, and the more he came on and was getting red zone usage, the less Zay Flowers was getting that opportunity.
Yeah.
So Mark Andrews finishing as, after all of that, the tight end 6 on the year.
Which is, is loud at the beginning.
I mean, look at all the touchdowns that Mark Andrews had from week 6 on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 touchdowns from week 6 to 18.
And, again, you have in an offense where Derrick Henry scored 16 touchdowns this year. Lamar still threw for 41 touchdowns, and he still had four touchdowns this year.
Mark Andrews had a 20% touchdown rate. From receptions to touchdowns.
Honestly, he's
one
an
in every 5 catch
interesting.
was a touchdown.
He's an interesting evaluation in Dynasty, I think.
Mark Andrews.
But but again, let's look at
this is not a Mark Andrews video, but just kind of trying to give you an idea of like those go-to guys in the red zone. They're not Zay Flowers. And
Zay Flowers, some trades you can make for him. Jalen Waddle plus. Again, this is a market play on Jalen Waddle. We already had him in the Anthony Richardson category, but you can get him plus in this category, and I think that's a good move to try to play the market. And Waddle, I feel like if Waddle's the wide receiver on his team, he's going to be more productive than Zay Flowers because Waddle's a better wide receiver. Chris Olave plus. Yes, I know. I was informed when we put him on our buys video that he's a walking concussion. I didn't know he had concussion problems.
What?
Yeah, he actually has been concussed multiple times.
No.
Nobody told us that. We know. We get it. Like, we know the risk. We know why he's as cheap as he is. But Chris Olave plus, I feel like, is a fairly good down tier. And you can also just pivot straight to Trevor Lawrence. Very comfortable with that as a move as well. So Zay Flowers, again, don't want to take away from what he's done, but I do feel like there are better values in that range when you're talking about trading him. So,
yep. I think there's better options than Jaden Reed as well. This is not technically a sell high. This really is a sell low. You never sell low in Dynasty Fantasy Football. With Jaden Reed, I do think that right now there are some buy lows in the price range of Jaden Reed that are worth even less than Jaden Reed, where you can get a premium on top of them when you move off him and get guys that have better production upside. With Jaden Reed, he's a guy that we've been really, really big on really since he came out of the draft and got better draft capital than anyone expected. The crazy thing is that he went from 94 targets his rookie season to only 75 this year. 850 receiving yards, which was more than he had his rookie season, but he had 2 less touchdowns. So again, his yards per catch, like 3 more than it was in 2023. He had a really, really good start to the season. The first 6 weeks of the year, he had 33, 6, 10, 27, 13, and 14 points. And after that, it was boom, bust town. It was basically touchdown or bust. We talked about in the past of him potentially being utilized as a rushing threat. And he showcased that this year, so that was fun to see. But again, with Jaden Reed, the target volume is not there. It's not consistent enough. When LaFleur said 1A, 1B, 1C, 1Ds for all the wide receivers there, he was absolutely right. You're never going to know what wide receiver is going to be productive when in the Green Bay Packers offense until they go and invest in an alpha wide receiver. And the reason that matters so much is because, number one, they could invest in an alpha wide receiver. Number two, they don't currently have an alpha wide receiver, and that includes Jaden Reed, which is unfortunate. None of these guys are really capable of commanding a consistent amount of target volume and can really dominate production overall in an offense. it sucks, but that's just the way it is with Jaden Reed. He's kind of like from a target volume perspective, he's kind of like a less good Jordan Addison in a not as great offense.
True.
And Jordan Addison gets more target volume on his big weeks, and he's a better route runner, right? So to me, I would rather go get DJ Moore. We just talked about Rome Odunze being a really good target. DJ Moore is a phenomenal target as well right now. His price is a fraction of what it was heading into the 2024 season. He still finished as a wide receiver 1, if I'm not mistaken. At least he was heading in. When he was going into week 18, he was a wide receiver 1. He's wide receiver 16 now on the year after the Green Bay game. So, I mean, it was not a great year for the Bears overall. Again, like we said with Rome Odunze, I'd rather have DJ Moore at 27 years old, who has had 2 still productive seasons. He out-targeted himself this season compared to last year. His yards per reception went down by 5, though, which was predictable because it was so high previously. And look, he still has a chance at being Caleb Williams' top option in 2025 if Rome Odunze continues to develop. I think that's a great move to make with the volume that Caleb Williams provides. Brandon Ayuk is the wide receiver 1 in San Francisco, and he has been a wide receiver 1 in the past. And he's coming off of a year where he tore his ACL after he didn't practice at all and held out all offseason, and San Fran finally caved and paid him $30 million a year. The biggest thing with Brandon Ayuk is that Deebo Samuel is more likely than not out of San Francisco this offseason. I would bet on that because I don't think they have the cap room or the cap space to pay him when they have to focus on paying Brock Purdy. Debo's probably the odd man out there. They're not letting go of Kittle. They just drafted Pearsall really to probably replace what Deebo Samuel offered in that offense. So that's a great target as well. And then David Montgomery straight up again. These are very, very easy, like straight up moves. Obviously, you don't have to do 1-for-1 trades. We're not the biggest fans of 1-for-1 trades, but value equivalent guys. David Montgomery is a really good target right now. You've got people in the Dynasty community right now that have been advocating for selling David Montgomery. Why the actual freaking heck would you do that? Everyone knows that he's a running back 2 for the Detroit Lions. Take the production at a discount. The dude, before he went down with the injury, only scored less than like 12 points once in a game. He's always going to get usage in the red zone, and he just got an extension as well. So go get the guys that are more. Those are all guys that are going to be more productive than Jaden Reed barring injury next season. So we
set up this video, so I was the one that ended up talking about this guy.
You don't want to hear
because you don't want to hear Nathan cry about this. Like you really don't. It's a lot. It's emotional. This is so cut and dry to me. It's so cut and dry to me that I rarely do this anymore, just because I know how bad it can come back to bite me in the butt. I know full well that me saying what I'm about to say could easily be one of the worst receipts ever to happen on this channel, and I'm going to say it anyways because I don't care. Anthony Richardson is not an NFL quarterback. He's one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. He's one of the worst passers I've ever seen play in the NFL, and he will not be an NFL quarterback in 3 years. And if you have him on your Dynasty team, right now, he's still technically a top 6 round Dynasty pick. I would sell him for absolutely anything in that range. He's bad at football. He's guys, look, I watch as many, if not more.
We literally watch all the games.
You can't watch more Colts than I do. You can't watch more Colts than he does. We watch all the games. We've been fans since we were 8.
Not to mention he doesn't have a competitive bone in his body. Like he does not care. He does not care about playing.
And I don't even want to go there. But like, but the thing is, like, there was nobody more excited that we drafted Anthony Richardson than us two. Go back. It's on our channel. Go back and watch our reaction. It's pretty funny.
It didn't work. Cut your losses. Move on.
And that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna cut our losses. Hopefully before this video comes out, I can move him in both leagues. I have him. But you know, we look at Anthony and look. That's a lazy take to just say he sucks at football. So I will give you some analytics to back it up. But from a production standpoint, the main reason that people are clinging on to hope with Anthony Richardson, or even putting him in their starting lineups, is because it's like, oh, the rushing upside. Even though he's not a good NFL quarterback, he's a good fantasy quarterback. He was 18th in points per game this year. 18th, 15.9 points per game. That's making no difference. It's making zero difference for your team.
Bo Nix is better than that.
The Bo Nix is miles better. But here's what I want to just go into his metrics. Some of these are so bad I can't believe it. True completion percentage, 39th in the NFL. That's all of the starting quarterbacks plus 7 more. He's behind. Like, he's in 38th in deep ball completion percentage, 39th in pressured completion percentage, 39th in play action completion percentage.
Those are all supposed to be his strengths.
True passer rating, 38th in the league. EPA, 39th in the league. He's got good, explosive rating. I'll mention this just to talk about it. 69th in the league, nice, but not nice, in receiver target separation. Yes, the weapons and the situation are not good for Anthony Richardson. Shane Steichen's actually done a pretty bad job with him. And I think part of it is Anthony Richardson's done a bad job for Shane Steichen. But the weapons could be much better. It doesn't matter. Red zone accuracy rating, 34th in the league. Deep ball accuracy, 29th in the league. Clean pocket accuracy rating, 34th in the league. Deep ball catchable pass rate, 30th in the league. Guys, he is legitimately bad at throwing a football.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like, again, I've watched a lot of him. I've rooted for him. We rooted for him more than any other people that are watching this channel, except for you, our fellow Colts fans. And if you're here, we feel sorry for you too. You can still trade Anthony Richardson right now for Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's about to get paid. Look at what Sam Darnold did this year. You want to talk about, I mean, I won't even go through all the stats I just read for Sam Darnold, but they are all top 10, first of all. Literally all of them. True pass rating, 4th. EPA, 7th. D-ball accuracy, 1st. Not to mention, fantasy, points per game, 9th. He's averaging 3 more points per game. Yep. You can still get Sam Darnold, who's going to get a new contract this year, whether it's with the Vikings or with another team. You can still get Sam Darnold by Anthony. I won't even think about that. Jalen Waddle. I know Waddle's been bad, but this is a market play. This is a Tyreek Hill could be leaving, maybe leaving, might be leaving, and everybody's going to get excited about Jalen Waddle. So I'm willing to buy him this offseason.
Yep.
And again, like, is it what you drafted Anthony Richardson for if you drafted him in the second, like we did because we're stupid people? No, it's not. Again, bad move on our part. Bad move for us to tell you to overpay for him. Awful, awful advice. We got way too sucked up into our own team and our own biases, and that was just a mistake. We can learn from that, though. I'm going to cut our losses here. Again, if Anthony Richardson comes out and he's the best quarterback in fantasy next year, not only that, I'll be thrilled because it will mean the Colts aren't abysmal, but it's not going to happen, guys.
Yeah, and I will say, as bad as Steichen did this year on actually utilizing him correctly, what ended up being the way that he was utilized best and where he was most effective, it was when they ran him like 9 or 10 times every single game, and he had good rushing upside there. Do you know how many times he passed the ball in his best games? The Houston game, 19 times. The Chicago game, 20 times. The Jets game was the most, 30 times. That was a weird game. Then New England, 24 times. Tennessee, 11 times. He does not have any passing upside capability whatsoever because he's not a good passer.
And look, I don't want to be that negative. I'm sorry I have to be that negative. I'm trying to tell the truth. I don't want to sugarcoat things also, and I don't want to lie to you. I want you to win Dynasty.
Steichen finally figured out that the less Anthony Richardson throws the ball, the better. And even if it means he only throws it less than 15 times.
So again,
which is not good for fantasy.
Anthony Richardson, he's a great kid. He's still super young. He has the most upside I've ever seen in a quarterback. And athletically, he's the most gifted player I've ever seen come in as a quarterback, period. There are so many positive things to say about Anthony Richardson. But from a Dynasty standpoint, there's really nothing. The last guy, Dak Prescott Plus. If you can get Dak Prescott Plus, totally doing that, 100% comfortable doing that. And you can, again, pivot off of Anthony Richardson and go get a guy who I just feel more comfortable in, and you get stuff on top of him.
So next up, we got another running back that's just, in our opinion, kind of easily replaceable this offseason, just with the way that the Chiefs have flown with running backs since Kareem Hunt really left for the first time around. And obviously that is going to be Isaiah Pacheco. So with Pacheco, shocker, he has not been the Pacheco that we've come to know and love since he came back from the broken leg, and that's because it's tough to come back from a broken leg and be super effective and efficient. I mean, since he has been back, he's been splitting a backfield with Kareem, actually being out-carried by Kareem pretty comfortably. The Vegas game, week 13, 6.2 yards per carry, which was good. Then 3.9, 2.4, 2.8, and 3 yards per carry. Once we get into the postseason and stuff like that, like, he could have a couple good games, and he'll be an important piece for the Chiefs if they want to make a run into the Super Bowl. But again, the Chiefs don't care about our valuation of Isaiah Pacheco. The Chiefs don't really care about what Isaiah Pacheco does in the postseason. They care about maintaining, and they care about maintaining their cap for the players that they really view as their cornerstones, right? They just demonstrated that with a guy like Chris Jones. They just went out of their way. They extended Chris Jones. They gave him a really good, one of the highest paid contracts at his respective position. And, a couple years back, they didn't pay Tyreek Hill because they didn't want to put so much of their cap into a wide receiver when they had Patrick Mahomes who could elevate weapons around him. Their cornerstones are Kelsey. Their cornerstones are Chris Jones and Patrick Mahomes, and really the entire defense, because the defense is going to be the reason that they potentially win another Super Bowl. So, with that in mind, running back is just the last position that they care about. Honestly, I mean this with no hard feelings against Isaiah Pacheco. The Kansas City Chiefs are the second to last franchise that I would expect to extend a day 3 running back.
The first one being the Rams?
Yes.
Yeah,
Sean McVay and the Rams. The Chiefs figured out the formula, and it's streaming running back every single year if it's what they have to do. Not only that, Isaiah Pacheco does kind of have a cap ceiling as a running back, and he has demonstrated that the last couple of years. When he's on the field, he's phenomenal. He misses significant time, and he gets banged up. So that's something to kind of keep an eye on long term. He could be their number one guy next season, but there are a couple scenarios that happen here that are very, very likely. Likely scenario number one, they go day 3 and they draft another running back. I'm already scared. Just like Tyron Tracy in that scenario for the Giants, if they draft a day 3 running back, just as good a chance to take over like Pacheco did as a day 3 running back a couple years ago, because Pacheco is going into the 4th year of his contract. He doesn't have a 5th year option because he's a day 3 guy. So they're going to be looking for a replacement, and they're probably going to try to ease someone in. There is an off chance that they spend a day 2 pick on a running back because this class is so stacked. And at that point, Pacheco's price is shot. It's gone. You're not going to get anything close to what Pacheco is worth right now. So what you can get for Pacheco right now, before we even have to have this discussion, if and when Kansas City inevitably replaces him, is TJ Hawkinson. If you're looking for a tight end, you could even put George Kittle there if you wanted to. Either one of those guys are the cheapest elite producing tight ends that get consistent target volume. Hawkinson has been a little slow since he came back from the injury. That was expected. He'll be full go next season. Ricky Pearsall plus. So this one's a little bit more of a lottery pick with Ricky Pearsall. You don't really know what type of role he's going to be for be in for San Fran next year. A lot of it's going to be dependent on what Debo's status will be. Ricky Pearsall has shown some solid flashes already coming back from injury on the latter half of this season. He's looked pretty solid, and he's got really good draft capital investment in the first round in 2024. And then you've got Alvin Kamara plus. I value Alvin Kamara as a 28, 29-year-old veteran running back who has just gotten a contract extension with the Saints higher than I do Isaiah Pacheco.
I do too.
He has more security than Pacheco does long term. So, and he's more productive when he's on the field. So, keep all those 3 guys in mind. If you're looking to package some guys together with Isaiah Pacheco, you can get some even pricier guys than that, and Pacheco would hold significant value in those deals. So let's move off Pacheco now. Maybe you can get him at a discount later after the draft if it's worth it. But at the moment, just not a fan of holding on to him.
So there you go. Again, you are free to disagree with us on some of these guys, and you're free to disagree with the individual trades. The one thing that I really don't entertain is, okay, this trade doesn't happen. Nobody's trading this for this. They are. Not everybody plays in your league. People play in home league. People play in casual leagues. People play in leagues where you play with idiots. Not everybody plays in the ultra smart nerd league like you, and where everybody makes the sharpest trades of all time. So don't discount advice we're giving people who are in more casual leagues because it doesn't happen in your league. It will, but I do understand if you do prefer either not to make the trades we recommended, or you don't agree with our evaluations of sells, because again, you really are, this is probably some of the most subjective advice we can give. We try to back it up with stats, but it is very subjective. So keep that in mind. Make sure you drop a like, make sure you subscribe. I hope you, let us know if you enjoy the long videos. I feel bad doing a video this long, but we're doing only 2 a week right now, and we feel like we need to back these guys up and give you some more specific trades. So let us know what you think in the comments, give us some feedback, but we appreciate you guys so much. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.